Welcome. You've joined us for another deep dive.
And today, our focus is squarely on the village of Maywood.
We've got the agenda from their board meeting on April 22nd, 2025, and also a recent warrant list, spending details.
Yep, the combined committee of the whole and special village board meeting agenda.
So our goal today is pretty straightforward. Let's unpack some key items from this agenda.
Understand what's planned, what the discussions are about.
And maybe highlight what it could mean for you, the listener.
Exactly. We'll try to navigate through it, point out what seems significant.
And maybe some questions that pop up along the way.
Yeah, get a clearer picture without getting totally bogged down in the jargon.
Okay, let's dive in then. Right at the top, Committee of the Whole, Finance Management Reports.
Standard stuff, but important.
We see a finance report mentioned, just over $2.1 million.
And warrant list, hashtag 2005-60, dated April 16th. That one totals about $2.57 million. Quite a sum.
For you listening, these numbers, they seem routine maybe, but they're the core financial pulse of the village, aren't they?
Absolutely. They show where the money is going at that specific moment, a snapshot.
You'd really want to see if these figures are, well, typical for Maywood or if something's changing, spending-wise.
Right. The agenda itself doesn't break it down line by line here, obviously, but those totals are the starting point.
Okay, moving on. Village President's Report, the big one. The FY 2025, FY 2026 annual budget.
Ah, yes, the financial roadmap for the next year.
The agenda calls it a status report regarding public hearing to discuss the budget.
And it notes the board plans to vote on an ordinance to approve it later.
Covers May 1st, 2025 through April 30th, 2026, standard fiscal year.
This document basically dictates projected income and planned spending for everything, all departments, services.
So here's something interesting, maybe a question for you, the listener. The agenda says the public hearing is later in this meeting.
And the actual approval ordinance is under the omnibus section, bundled with other items.
But looking just at this agenda, there's no mention that the actual budget document itself has been posted online for people to see before the hearing.
Yeah, that's a potential transparency issue, isn't it?
You'd think people would want to see the details beforehand.
Ideally, yes. Residents should have time to, digest the proposal before they're asked for public comment.
To really engage meaningfully, you need that information up front.
So the fact that its prior availability isn't mentioned here, well, it's definitely something to note if you're focused on open government.
Absolutely. Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Village Manager's Report, this gets into some more specific spending.
Right, items H, I, and J, all about the police station remodeling.
And all involving one vendor, F&J Dimensions of North Lake, Illinois.
Let's see, invoice, hashtag 1601 for $5,370. That's for the commander's office.
And hashtag 1604, that's almost $16,000, $15,975 for the dispatch room.
And hashtag 1606, another $1,200 for repairs, painting, electrical work.
All paid from the general fund, it says. Budget line item, hashtag 01 and a 55 to 110.
Now here's the interesting part, especially for you listening. Check the omnibus agenda later on. Items R, S, and T.
Ah, right, those same invoices.
And the motion for each one. Waive competitive bidding and approve payment.
Not just one waiver, 3 waivers for the same company in the same meeting.
Mm-hmm. What does that pattern suggest?
Well, it certainly makes you ask questions about the usual process, doesn't it?
Exactly. Why waive bidding repeatedly for F&J Dimensions here? There might be valid reasons sometimes, maybe an emergency or specialized service.
But 3 times in a row like this for remodeling work.
It makes you wonder, was there due diligence? Did they check if this is the best value? Were other companies even considered?
And the agenda doesn't give us any clues on that. No justification for the waivers, no background on F&J Dimensions, nothing about their qualifications, or, frankly, if they're even a fully verified business.
That lack of detail around procurement is notable.
Very. Okay, let's keep moving. Village Attorney Report, item H, formation of 4 new TIF districts.
TIF districts, tax increment financing.
Can you give us the quick refresher on what TIF is?
Sure. Basically, a town designates an area, often one needing development. They freeze the property tax base level.
Okay.
Then, as development happens and property values hopefully rise, the new tax revenue generated above that frozen base, the increment gets reinvested back into that specific district.
For things like infrastructure, public improvements, to spur more growth there.
Exactly. That's the idea.
And Maywood's proposing 4 new ones. covering large chunks of the village.
Yeah, North area #1, middle area #2, mid-south #3, and south area #4. It's quite ambitious.
What stands out about their status in the agenda?
Well, it seems there are different stages. For you, the listener, it's interesting to see the uneven progress.
How so?
Districts 1 and 3 apparently had public meetings way back in February 2024.
Oh, over a year ago.
And their TIF plans are supposedly available on the village website now, so they seem further along.
But what about the others? And the next steps?
For all four, the dates for the Joint Review Board meetings and the main public hearings are mostly listed as TBD, to be determined.
So, still some major steps missing, even for the ones that had initial meetings last year?
Right. It suggests these are still very much in development and maybe at different speeds. That could affect future development patterns across Maywood.
Okay, now let's talk about something crucial. It's not explicitly an agenda item for discussion tonight, but it hangs over all this financial talk.
Ah, you mean the delinquent reports.
Exactly. The fact that, as far as we know, based on state records, the Village of Maywood's 2024 audit and its required TIF reports are still delinquent, overdue with the Illinois State Controller's Office.
And this is a really vital piece of the puzzle for you to understand. These aren't just suggestions, they're legal requirements in Illinois.
Mandatory filings for financial transparency and accountability, right?
Absolutely. The annual audit is an independent checkup on the village's financial health. Are the books in order?
And the TIF reports. They detail what's happening financially within each existing TIF district. Money in, money out.
Which is especially important if they're proposing 4 new ones. You need to know the existing ones are being managed and reported on properly.
So, given how important this is, does this agenda mention any update on getting that 2024 audit finished and filed?
Not that I can see here. No item addressing the status of the delinquent audit or TIF reports.
So how can the public, or even the board, making these decisions tonight, be fully confident about adopting a new budget for FY 2026?
We're creating new TIF districts.
Without that complete, verified financial picture from the 2024 audit.
That's the core issue, isn't it? This delinquency raises serious questions about the availability of current, independently verified financial data. It makes informed decision-making much harder.
It really casts a shadow over discussions about future spending and finances.
Definitely. You need that baseline of audited financials.
Okay, let's also quickly touch on the omnibus agenda again. We mentioned the F&J Dimensions waivers,
Items R, S, and T.
but looking down that list, items O through CC, there are quite a few other motions to waive competitive bidding and approve payment.
Yeah, it's not just F&J. You see names like Master Guy's Demolition, Professional Concrete Services, Gino's Heating and Plumbing, Midwest Chlorinating, RZ Services.
For things like demolition, concrete work, plumbing, various services.
It reinforces that question about procurement practices. How often is competitive bidding being waived? And is there always a clear, documented reason why it's necessary or advantageous for the village?
Seeing that pattern across multiple vendors and services might be something you, the listener, interested in fiscal responsibility, would want to track. And just to loop back to the budget, the agenda does detail the structure for the public hearing itself later in the meeting, section 14.
All right. Presentation by the village manager and finance director, board discussion, public comments, then a motion to recommend approval.
Which again highlights the importance of that hearing for public input, especially if the budget document wasn't easily accessible beforehand.
It's the designated time for residents to voice opinions or ask questions about the plan.
Okay, so let's try to bring it all together. This deep dive into just one Maywood meeting agenda. It really surfaces several key things for you to consider.
We've got the upcoming budget process, with that question mark around pre-hearing public access to the full document.
We've got the repeated waivers of competitive bidding, particularly for F&J Dimensions, without clear public justification in the agenda.
Then there's the formation of 4 new TIF districts, moving forward at seemingly different paces, with key dates still undecided.
And critically, underpinning all of this, is the ongoing delinquency of the required 2024 financial audit and TIF reports with the state.
Each of these points really highlights why paying attention to these local government meetings and documents is so important.
These agenda items aren't just procedural. They reflect decisions and processes impacting Maywood's finances and future direction.
It underlines the need for continued scrutiny, doesn't it?
It does. So for you, the listener, perhaps the final thought is this. Given these patterns, the bidding waivers, the TBDs on TIFs, and especially the lack of timely audited financial reporting, What are the potential consequences for the Village of Maywood's financial stability, its transparency, and its overall governance moving forward?
That's the big question, really. This agenda provides a snapshot, a starting point.
But it certainly raises points that warrant further watching and, likely, further questions.